All right, for those that are just joining the webinar, now we have a poll that we've just put up. If you could take a minute to answer that poll while you're joining and while we're just allowing a few other people to join, that would be great. We will get started in about a minute. Should probably, maybe I'll share my screen so everybody knows they're at the right webinar.
That might be useful.
All right, so far we have 11% of people participating in our poll. Oh, it's going up. We're up to 16%. Lots of people using Excel, accounting system, a little Tableau. Nobody using Power BI yet.
Let's not skew the data by suggesting.
So you don't want me to talk about how many people are using paper?
Yes, I think that might be useful actually.
Okay, for if you just joined, there's a poll up. Welcome to our webinar. Our data is everywhere. How to harness Power BI to save time and make better decisions. So if you are joining this webinar, we are assuming that you are interested in business intelligence, you're interested in Power BI, you're interested in talking about the data challenge that we have out there in the world and the growing data challenge. I am joined, as always, by Mr. Jermaine Clark. Jermaine, welcome.
Thank you, Brendan. Happy to be here as usual.
Jermaine is our VP of Operations at Techify. My name is Brendan Howe. I'm the CEO. We do these webinars every month or so, usually the third Wednesday of each month. We hold these webinars, and our goal with these webinars is to take complex technology, simplify it, and help people in half an hour, 45 minutes a month, keep up to date with what's going on in technology, key trends, keep things that we think people should be doing, small businesses, mid-sized businesses, nonprofits, how people should be embracing technology. If you do have questions as we go along or want to provide us feedback, please do in the Q&A panel. We love the Q&A panel. We will take the format of this. We're about half an hour-ish of content, and then we will follow that by questions. Generally, the way we do this is we don't want to stretch out half an hour content in an hour-long webinar. Everybody's been on webinars like that. It's no fun. We'd rather power through the content and then decide to answer questions based on the feedback that we get from everybody. So give us your feedback, give us your questions, pop them in the Q&A as we're going along. We do have another webinar coming up in August. Usually what Jermaine and I do is say, hey, we're going to take August off from webinaring. And so we're still going to do that this year. But we have a couple members of our team who are going to do a great webinar, really kind of diving into some good tactical stuff about how to maximize efficiency using Microsoft 365. And particularly using the stuff that you're already paying for in Microsoft 365. So whether it's AI that's built in, efficiency measures, different tips and tools, I would suggest send this one out to your whole company. It's a great August webinar. It's great for anybody, any staff member. Give me some ideas, give me some tools, allow me to better use technology. That's the purpose of it. If you're a client of ours, please broadcast it far and wide. If you're not a client of ours, don't know why you're not, but feel free to have a couple people from your organization join as well. Jade, who's our business development manager, and Mike, who's our consulting team lead, are going to be running that webinar, and I'm looking forward to just kind of sitting back and watching it. It'd be great.
Sounds good.
All right, so let's get into it. We have a data challenge in the world, right? So here, have a look at this graph. This is from Statistica, and it talks about the volume of information created, captured, copied worldwide. If you look at between 2010 and 2020, and this is in zettabytes, it goes from 2 to 64. And then the expectation is that's going to keep on increasing. Like, this is crazy. I'm not even really sure. Jermaine, do you know what a zettabyte is?
Yeah. So, everybody's heard about a kilobyte, megabyte, gigabyte, terabytes. Some of our clients and the people we talk to, they have terabytes of data or a terabyte of data. So a zettabyte's a couple of cousins twice removed on that, because after terabyte there comes petabyte, then there's an exabyte, then there's a zettabyte. So a zettabyte's kind of like 1024 times 7, so it's a million. So you got 1,000 terabytes, which become a petabyte, and 1,000 petabytes, which becomes an exabyte, and you got 1,000 exabyte, which becomes a zettabyte, which is ridiculous. We get all the way to Q with this at some point. But we're talking 10 to the 1,000 to the power of 7 when you're in zettabytes. That's how much data we're talking here.
Okay, so we're basically talking, to simplify it, gobs and gobs of data, and it's getting everywhere, right? And so if we kind of go, if we look at what IBM says, is that every day we are creating 2 quintillion bytes of data, which means that 90% of data in the world has been generated in the last 2 years alone.
Yeah, so quintillion is the last one on that list, which is like 10 to the power of 15.
So this is like, we just have like so much data everywhere. This is like the data version of an episode of Hoarders, right? So we just have this data piling up. It's like our houses are getting more and more full of data, our digital houses. And the challenge is, like, what the heck are we doing with all this data? And in a lot of cases, we're not doing anything with it, or it's just piling up and stuff like that. And it's leading to what IBM calls a cost of, or they've calculated the cost of $3.1 trillion annually, having poor data quality. And that's what it's costing the economy. So, like, bottom line, this is a big issue, right? It's a big issue, and it goes, at a macro level, it's an issue across the economy. At a micro level, in dealing with company by company, we're all having like data's all over the place, right? Great, thank you, cloud computing, for creating all these applications that will do our accounting and do our CRMing and our ERPing and HRIS systems and purchase order systems and this and that. But unfortunately, all that data in a lot of cases is all in different places. And it's becoming quite the struggle for a lot of people. So that's why we want to do the webinar today. Jermaine, do you want to take us through a little bit of why people are struggling? Why is this the case?
Well, first, we love to do things in small bites. So we're not going to talk about every single challenge as to why companies and people are struggling with their data management or the quality of their data. So we're going to give you 5 things that we think are kind of top of the tier of reasons why companies are struggling with their data today, right? And the first one, which everybody, I just had a conversation earlier today with a member of our team, and they were like, hey, I just created the new file for 2024 as we think about our planning, and I get an Excel file, right? And we want to call this the excellent paradox. And everybody here on this webinar, I mean, I can put a thumb up in the air and see all the different people raising their hands saying, I've got an Excel sheet that goes on for miles, right? We had a client that's been in their particular industry for, 20 years. They're huge. They started out at $100 and now they're 30 million. And over time, every single inch of their environment got somehow connected to an Excel sheet that goes on for miles and down the eons for depth, and everything's connected to it. So now when Microsoft 365, all the different cloud options came out, they're like, oh my God, I've got all of this stuff that's everything's linked to the same place in this one Excel file. So if I move that Excel file and try to store it somewhere else, all of my connectors are going to break. Everything's going to go. I can't go to Microsoft 365. I can't do Azure. I can't do SharePoint. Everything's a mess. And now Excel is great. As your company scales, though, and you spend more years collecting more data, it becomes next to impossible to manage.
So if you look at the data, and we're talking about data in this webinar, 100% of people are using Excel.
That's everyone in the poll. Excellent, including us. We still have at least a few sheets that are Excel based.
Yeah, so we've got lots, and a fair number of people have an accounting system too. So that's good. So that's good feedback. We appreciate that. So we start with the excellent paradox. Here's number 2. Data overload, right? We have this enormous amount of data, like our CRM system started creating data, our ERP system started creating data. Yeah, we've got these database backends. We've got all these cloud applications. We've got expense reports. We've got like a Bamboo HR, like an HRIS system, or maybe use
your home cameras. Some people with refrigerators that tell them when they should replace their milk or if they have enough eggs.
Yeah, I was out on vacation last month and I'm with my father-in-law in Vancouver Island. And he's like, oh, I just got an alert. The washing machine, the dryer just ended. And that must mean that his stepson, who's 21 years old, he's like, oh, he's doing, he was at home and he's doing laundry. And that's an amount of data. I don't know why that matters and why that, but there's a lot of data out there and it tells us everything, right? I get an alert every time my garage door opens or closes. I'm not sure I need that data, but it's data, it's being created.
And then we fast forward into the next one. And again, we're kind of rolling this up to the 5 reasons why people struggle with data. Like, why are we struggling? Lack of a data strategy. Everything, if you've been to any of our webinars, you're a client of ours, everything we do, we talk about making sure that we've got a plan. If you're going to drive somewhere, you need a plan. You're going to do a reno to your house, you need a plan. You're going on vacation, you still need a plan. If you're going to go and collect washing machine data, and you're going to collect data from your garage, and you want to know how many times eggs are in the fridge from your refrigerator that's now smartly operated, great. But without a clear plan or a strategy, we're going to struggle to analyze, organize, and interpret the data. Like, is it really necessary? Is it a key metric that you know how many times the dryer completed a load? When you leave the room, it says 43 minutes. It's a full load. It says 43 minutes. Like, do I need to get some more data at the end saying, hey, the 43 minutes is passed? I don't know.
Unless maybe you operate a series of laundromats, and then maybe that actually is important to you.
But then that would become a key metric, and defining that's going to be important. So you have a strategy of how you're going to deal with all the data that you're collecting. So
the next struggle that we see is data quality and consistency. So data comes in different shapes, sizes, formats. It's not always reliable or consistent, or it doesn't always have the right context. Yeah. And people struggle with this. Like we went into a client and they wanted to pull a key dashboard together of key metrics, right? And so we built these different applications. So we used Power BI and kind of pulled it from different applications and created a dashboard. But the dashboard looked completely different than what the staff were putting into an Excel document on a weekly basis. And so they're like, well, the data is not right. And we said, well, that's the data that's in the system. Let's look at it. And what it actually came out to be was that they were manually entering the data, which was then leading to people interpreting the data and then manually entering. And kind of coming up with creative ways to put data in. And so the coming to it forced kind of a push on the operations side of things to say, well, if the process isn't being followed, then the data is not getting into the software properly. And it's garbage in, garbage out, right? And then it led to a bunch of operational changes, which were very, very positive, because all of a sudden there was a clear view based on the attempt to get data, not even like analyzing data. It was just an attempt to get data. And there was a clear view of, oh, we're not doing this right.
Yeah, the information isn't there. Now, I don't think I need to explain what $3.1 trillion looks like, but just consider that that's what the US is losing every day due to data quality.
Yeah.
Then the other portion of the, how many, I mean, I'd ask for a raise of hands. I'm going to imagine I'm seeing everyone on the webinar here. But when we think about the fifth thing, we want to go with the technology and expertise gap. I am sure that everyone on this call has at least X number of employees within their organization that they're like, well, I don't know how to use this thing, so I'm not going to use it. I was chatting to one of our colleague of ours that we go to our kind of peer group meetings with. We discuss challenges, things like that. And one of the topics that came up as we were chatting along was like, I think it's time for a new ERP system. So we're like, sure. Well, why do you need a new ERP system today? What are you doing with that? So you just like to ask good questions. And they said, well, we've got all these different bits of information that different teams are managing, etc. And we want to be able to do some reporting and analysis, but none of the systems talk to each other. And we have this challenge where other people are reporting in one section when they're reporting the other section. The two things don't match because one should follow the other. And except just as like our last example, the data that's being put in is being some form or fashion transformed that doesn't match up when it comes to make a decision and to look at the reporting. And there's not enough people internally to say something along the lines of, well, how about we advise you on using something like Tableau or something like Power BI, QuickBooks Online, that provides you all of this automated reporting, of which you can then go ahead and get it implemented, which would solve the issue for everyone reporting into a central place. Right. And we see that expertise gap. And then, of course, it's like, well, I've been using this for 35 years. I don't know or want to change.
Wait, hold on, Jermaine. Like the bookkeeper is used to QuickBooks Desktop, so we cannot move to QuickBooks Online. Right. So we just can't do it. Right.
Well, it's my Excel sheet won't load into QuickBooks Online, or my ERP system, the person that made it has retired and moved to some other tropical country where I can't get them to fix it.
Yeah, and if you don't have that expertise internally to say, hey, if we went from a QuickBooks Desktop, use a very basic example, if we went from a QuickBooks Desktop to a QuickBooks Online, and we implemented a Power BI, we could suck that information from all these different applications and put it in the same place. But if you don't have that internal expertise and don't understand that, it can stand in the way, right? And there's lots of, like, we've heard lots of different reasons why people don't take action, right? Why are we see this multi-trillion-dollar problem? So why are we not taking action? Why aren't people doing it?
Some of the challenges right off the bat is nobody knows. Like, if you don't know what you don't know, someone has to come up one day, or you see the flying car and you're like, wow, I didn't know cars could fly. Then all of a sudden you see flying cars everywhere and you got to buy one, right? If your organization does not fully understand that potential that you have, then there's no reason. It's like a lack of awareness on that. Then there's a lack of kind of that internal expertise. Who is the person internally that's going to be like, hey, I just found this new thing. Let's go try it out and do it and get our company going. Because I don't want to do that. There's nobody here that wants to do it. Everybody wants to stay with Excel.
Mm-hmm.
well, what if I look silly on a phone call trying to rearrange my team screen or present, or because I don't know the piece of software, I don't have time to go do videos and get somebody to teach me. You know what? I'm going to stick with what I know.
But it's hard, Jermaine.
Well, yeah. If there's anybody on here that can tell me something new that is not hard, that would be, to me, that would be a first. Because every single thing you do new that you've never done before is hard.
But what if we do this and it doesn't work out? It doesn't go very well.
You rinse, repeat, analyze, see what the challenges are, and you try it out again, right? Because I mean, look, I'm never gonna do it. If I implement a new ERP system, or I add another product to my catalog, then I've got to figure out pricing, and everybody else, it's too much work. I don't know if I actually put that in place, if it's gonna work. Then we go and we talk a little bit about that. Well, I don't trust that cloud stuff. Cloud. I love when they use the air quotes and they're like cloud. I'm like, yeah, it's just a data center somewhere else.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I've got this key on my belt and I've locked my server in a room, and I know for a fact that it's safe. So I don't want a data breach. I don't want somebody walking in some data center and taking my hard drives out and stealing all my proprietary information. None of it.
But there's a cost. There's a real cost to this. So this is what it's costing people not to act on this, right? So we saw the 3.1 trillion. Was that
3.1 trillion?
3.1 trillion.
US.
Yeah, US dollars, which is, many trillions in Canadian. Look, you're going to be, if you're not seeing the data, you're going to be slow to react to stuff that's going on in your organization. So the trends, the opportunities that are going to come out, you're not going to see them. You're not going to see them until much later, right? There, you talk about that waste, that inefficiency, the lack of process, or inefficient use of resources. It's that costs a lot of money. Think about the impact of making a bad decision. If you make a bad decision that isn't based on data, isn't based on what's going on, it's based on assumptions, it's based on emotion, it's based on all sorts of stuff, right? You make a bad decision and it can literally threaten your business. And all of this can lead to a big competitive disadvantage. And the output of it is it can cause staff turnover, right? We all struggle with getting great people, keeping them motivated, not burnt out, all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. This all kind of leads into how we're supporting our teams and that sort of stuff. It can lead to us being less competitive, and it definitely leads to lower profits for those that are profitable, or for those that are non-profits. It leads to not being able to do as much good stuff with the resources that we have.
And, people are thinking, hey, I'm not that kind of a company. My company is stable. The market we work in is specific. I'll give you great examples, throughout the Blockbusters, throughout the Blackberries, throughout all of those people who the cost of them not doing anything was those gigantic, too big to fail companies actually failing. Yeah. Massive.
Okay. So we established we need to do something about it. Let's talk about how we're going to develop a data strategy. Okay. So we've got 8 steps to the process that we recommended. We've gone through this with ourselves internally. We've gone through it with a bunch of clients. If you're sitting there thinking about, okay, how do I deal with this data challenge? We want to give you something. This is the sort of playbook. This is the process. Here's how we would suggest going about it. Okay. So number 1, we're going to set a business goal. So what is it that we're trying to accomplish with data? Say for us, we're a business. We provide proactive technology, cybersecurity, and productivity powered by data and AI. So as a business, our entire business is powered by data. So we want all of our decision-making across the business to be powered by data. And we want that data to be collected in an automated way. But by manual input for Excel, We want it automated. We want to be able to support our team to unleash the brilliance that they have. And we want to give them the data so that they're able to do that and do that effectively.
And part of that process is really, you've got to then determine the data that you're going to collect. Because as we demonstrated, there's tons of data coming in, everybody's bogged down. How do we focus in, put the blinders on, find the things that are key metrics to our organization, and then go ahead and look at and collect that data, right? Is dryer information on loads a key metric to your organization? If you're a laundromat, maybe. How much am I making on the dryer side versus on the washing side? But if you're a restaurant, is that necessary to collect? No. So really determining what that data is that you need to collect is going to start, because garbage in, garbage out, $3.1 trillion in USD. And we've got to go through that process of identifying and ensuring that the data we're collecting is going to be useful.
So you set the business goal, you determine which data you want to collect, what are your KPIs, what do you want to see, that sort of thing. And then you get into, okay, is it BI ready? Let's analyze the actual data, right? Is it structured or unstructured data? What data is there? What's the art of the possible, right? The example, the QuickBooks example we gave earlier. If you want your dashboard to include financial information and you're using QuickBooks Desktop, you're going to have to put in a connector, you're going to spend a bunch of extra money, and that versus if it's in QuickBooks Online, and you're using something like, if you're using Power BI, you just put the Power BI connector in, and then you got pre-populated reports and everything it pulls, right? So that analysis of what's possible, what's our data look like? Do we need to create a data repository, or can we just pull data in live? What are the capabilities in terms of the applications we're using? Are there APIs? Is it easy to access data? All that sort of stuff, that analysis is key.
Now, once you've got that, so you've got your business goal, you've determined which data you want to collect, you're going to analyze that data, see if it's ready or if it needs to be transformed. Then you've got to decide what platforms are going to be needed. Okay. Most people go buy the car first before they decide what the other stuff is that they want. What you want to do is, you've already know what your data is and what you want to collect. Now you've got to go find the platforms that do that as effectively as possible, so that you spend as little time and money preparing the application that's sucking that data out and pumping it into Power BI. You want to spend less time doing that. So you've got to decide on what you have. Is it what you have today that's going to do what you need tomorrow? Or do you need to go ahead and replace the whole thing and start with something different?
Yeah, or we've had the experience of, you take this big project and you say, I'm going to do this part of this project, right? And then you visualize your data. Once you figured out what platforms you're using, if you need to change your platforms, maybe you're stopping there and changing the platforms, or maybe you're changing the data that you're going to go in your first round, and you visualize the data. Like, don't put it out in an Excel document, give it visual, give it life, show me trends, show me the graph, show me where things are going, give me the ability to pull insights from it. So we visualize it. We say, hey, okay, Jermaine, we've got this shiny, wonderful report. What do we do next?
Well, now is where it gets to the fun part, because you want to be able to validate what's there, right? So we've seen a few of our clients has gone through this process where the input data manually didn't match the extracted data automatically. And then when you take a look at those two, there's disparity. So again, this is the importance of ensuring that you determine and analyze the right data, and you got to validate it. Go in and check it against the actuals. Is this matching up? Is this correct? Before you start depending on that data, you've got to validate and ensure that the data that you're seeing in that visualization is accurate. And you've got to do that on a repeating purpose.
And there's going to be some stuff that's going to be wrong. Just expect there's going to be some stuff. You gotta clean the data. You got to fix it. You got to figure out how the application is putting in the data, or how the people are putting in the data, or something along those lines. And then you do that, and then you clean that up, and you get to the point where you can have data-driven insights. So all of a sudden it becomes clearer. The world is clearer for me, right? I can see what's going on. I can chart the future. I can make way better data-driven decisions.
Yeah, informed decisions with what you're working with. And then, well, because we like circular things and we like to check and recheck stuff, you've got to have a continuous review and improvement process in place. And if you look at your business on an annual basis, or a rolling 12 months, or on a quarterly basis, or a 6-month cycle, whatever your business interpretation is of how that workflow works and how the generation comes about, you've got to put in place checks and balances around, let me review this. This is what we did over the last calendar or fiscal year. Here's how we landed. Let's review this to see if it's giving us what we need. Did we grow? Did we change? Was this usable? And then if it doesn't, or it does, you take what's good, turn that into the next year, and then replace and or update or test the new things. Because that way, you want to be able to remove what's not useful and put in more of what's useful. And then you go back, because I don't know about everyone on here, every year we set a business goal, and every year we determine what we need, how we're going to track it. Most of the clients that we work with in our nonprofits and in our construction environments, in the AEC zones, all of those people have a plan, they have a timeline on their projects, etc. And they set a business goal related to, well, here's how we're going to deliver on all the stuff that we're promising. And then every time they come back around to where that business goal needs to be reviewed again, you review your data, you review the process, and then is our new business goal what we need right now? And then we go through the process again. So that way you refine it and you make it better.
Yeah, and I think that continual process, first of all, data is a little bit addictive. Like once you get good data and it gets addictive, you want more, and you want to know more of what's going on. And the other thing that happens too is if you're in a client service or service delivery or type of business or organization, you have internal BI, and then you have BI, business intelligence, on the folks that you're providing client service for.
Yeah.
So you can give people business intelligence on their organizations or on their program or on subsets of individuals or stuff like that.
So yeah, let's jump in and just talk a little bit about what's Power BI, how are people using it right now? Because again, all of this data is out there. We want to develop a strategy. We want to make it happen, and then we want to kind of go through and do that. And Power BI is one of the ways. It's by no means the only one. There's direct competitors like Tableau and Zoho, etc., that you can get reporting that's similar. When you look at this and you want to solve those data-related challenges and that decision-making enabled by data, then you want to put everything, doesn't matter where it's coming from, you want to put it into a central place so that the actionable outcomes you can compare departments to departments, you can compare changes, etc., all throughout the business, all in one place. Right? It's a central pillar across all your organization, right? Like Brendan, we've been getting all excited about this, right? You got to get that data in there.
This is the solution that brings everything together. And as Jermaine said, it's not the only solution out there. We just think it's the best solution. You take these different kind of locations of your data, your ERP, your finance system, your sales, CRM, your marketing, and we want to have this information coming into one place. We want to build the future and say, I want to have some machine learning sometime down the road that's going to allow us to interpret the data and do stuff with it, right? I want to automate the feed. I want my staff. So many of our teams spend all this time collecting and kind of collating information and putting it into spreadsheets and figuring out how and like graphing it. And by the time you're done collecting all the information, you're freaking exhausted. You don't have time or you don't have the energy left to actually interpret the data and give a recommendation, because it's so hard to find it and get it and pull it out of this system. And this, like Power BI, we love it because you can set it up through, most applications have APIs, which allow you to plug in. There's a bunch of applications like QuickBooks Online, for example, has a Power BI widget that you just like basically turn on, and then all of a sudden there's a bunch of pre-canned reports coming in, and the data's flowing in from QuickBooks. So you can have the financial analysis, and you can couple the financial analysis with operations analysis, and it's going to be different for every person. Hopefully we've provided enough examples in this webinar so people kind of get the sense of what's capable, what can we do. Like you can imagine any amount of data, cross-reference it with data from other applications. You can have it readily available, you can have it automated, and Power BI is a great tool. And then the other reason we really like Power BI is the integration into Microsoft 365. Because most people are in Microsoft 365. Their data is being put into Microsoft Graph, which is the foundation of Microsoft 365. And then you take Power BI, has that integration in and can analyze data from all sorts of different sources and really pick up good data from the Microsoft Graph and from the back end of 365. So it's easy to use. When you create the creating reports is probably not something that you do like everybody does. But once the reports are created, anybody can just filter them year, month, day, can change different settings in the reports. And once they've been developed and the data has been created and stuff like that, and then you can have access to that really powerful data.
That's too hard. I don't want to do all that.
Why save money? Why enable our staff? What are we going to do? Oh, here's what we should do. Okay, so we've given you some suggestions. We've given you a way of looking at things. I think we've identified the problem. We've identified why not to do anything about it. We've also identified why to do things about it. Hopefully, what will happen if you don't do anything about it gives you motivation to do something about it, right? And you see the benefits and you see the opportunity. If you do want to see what your roadmap would look like in your organization, if you're like, hey, I'm interested in solving this data problem, you can use the QR code on the screen, and we will do a Power BI readiness assessment for you. And what this assessment is we'll do the first 3 things in that process for you. So we'll talk to you about what your goal is. We'll go through what you've determined in terms of the data that you want to collect. Right? Do you want information on the dryers, or do you want key metrics, right? So we'll determine what data, we'll work with you and get an understanding of what data you want to collect. And then we'll analyze your data and kind of give it a sense of the art of the possible, right? Is it BI ready? Do you have a setup that you're good to go, or do you have to make some changes or a few tweaks or stuff here and there? Let's do 1, 2, and 3. If you're interested in that, please just with the QR code, go to quick form, put your name, your online banking password, stuff like that. And oh wait, no, don't do that. And just put your name and your organization, your phone number, email, and then we will contact you. Or if you don't like QR codes, just you do the old-fashioned way and reach out to Jermaine and I. Right, Jermaine?
Yeah. That would work too, especially if we've been given a little bit of feedback that there's maybe a permissions issue with accessing the form. So we'll want to make sure that the form is accessible again, because it was working this morning as we pre-tested it, but we'll make sure that that's functional again.
All right, so we'll go. Thank you for that, Crystal. We'll go and we'll just double check and make sure that form has ability to access everybody outside and not just within our own organization.
The benefits of that security platform, which brings us to a couple of our questions we've got kind of sitting around in there as well.
All right, so if you do have a question, please post in the Q&A panel. We have a few questions that have come in, so we'll take a little bit of time and we'll go through it. So question number 1, Jermaine, can Power BI ensure data security?
So that's a loaded question. I think I need to go backtrack a little bit first. Power BI is collecting information and putting it in display. It's not sharing information to external sites or any of that. It's like your computer screen displaying information from your CPU or your desktop, your laptop, whatever. That output doesn't go to anyone. Access to the data cannot be retrieved through Power BI. And everything that governs the security of that data is within your Microsoft 365 or within the application that you're utilizing to pull data from, RE, your QuickBooks, etc. Important question. I mean, that's Brendan, you want to add anything to that? I think it's a pretty important one.
Yeah. I think the benefit of integration, the benefit of using Microsoft products when you're already with Microsoft, as opposed to going to a Tableau or something like that. If your Microsoft 365 tenant account setup, etc., is being run with best practices from a cybersecurity perspective, it extends to Power BI. It extends to that data, right? As Jermaine was saying. There's a whole new world coming with Microsoft Entra and stuff like that will be the subject of future webinars. But the ability to secure the data that you're pulling from different platforms into Power BI is really dependent on how well are you securing your Microsoft 365 setup. And if you're securing that properly, then you're gonna have really secure, robust data. If you're not, like if that Microsoft 365 environment's not being proactively managed, if somebody's not auditing, reviewing, and aligning it on a regular basis, at least monthly, then it's not going to be as secure. And then there's going to be some data security issues there. Like at the end of the day, people like this nonsense from the commercials about, hey, let's go to the cloud, it'll be easier, and we don't have to worry about backup, and we don't have to worry about security and that sort of stuff. Actually, it's more complex. You have to do more in the back end. You have to ensure that the security is there. You have to back up the data properly and secure it. There is, in fact, more to do. And unfortunately, the commercials may have steered a lot of people wrong. So now we're going to the next step of kind of reducing that complexity on the cloud side. Anyway, before I keep
well, I'm happy to report for Crystal's benefit as well and the rest of our participants. The QR code is working now. We've refreshed it just to make sure. So if you want to access that, please go right ahead. We can show that off again.
All right, and let me just go back. We can go back to our assessment here. I'll keep it up on the screen for a little bit.
Real-time actionable data there. There we go.
Perfect. We love that. Okay. Can Power BI be accessed from a mobile phone? So can I have the world of data at my fingertips, not just on my desktop?
Long as it's a company compliant mobile phone, the answer is yes.
Yeah, because you know what? It'd be cool just to get all the information I need just on my phone.
Yeah. It's good to have it as long as your device is compliant, which, you know, your IT, your internal IT or external IT, whoever supports you will have those policies in place to govern the devices, of course. But yeah, like you're able to access it similar to your Outlook email, your Microsoft Documents, your Google Mail. Like you will be able to launch that application and work from your phone to see all the reports, etc., that you'd like to see.
Cool. All right. We have one or two. We'll do one or two more. Let's do this one. Jermaine, what differentiates Power BI from other data visualization platforms?
So this is highly opinionated. There's no way to. This is anything that, you know, who likes red wine more than white wine? That's a highly opinionated question there, but I'll offer one anyway. In terms of ease of use, in terms of global connectors, I think Power BI is being invested in a lot, and it is, if not the best out there, you know, it's probably just in a foot race of where it's ahead and behind ever so slightly with its top competitors. What makes it, I would say, differentiates it, it's the utilization and the collaboration. You could never get when something is built to function with where all the data is coming from in your Microsoft 365 space, that is a key differentiator, right? There's no downloading and putting your data somewhere else. There's no speed latency with it. There's no wondering whether or not you can pull the data and do the stuff that you want. So there's a peace of mind in there. It comes with security, peace of mind, productivity from a point of view that you can adequately, quickly make changes, update it. It's very user-friendly for parsing and looking at reporting for every part of your organization, as opposed to having to learn an entire back end of something else to do that. So very user-friendly. And then from a cybersecurity perspective, it is within the information. Like we used to have a lot of these discussions about what's the difference between VPN and going straight to the cloud. And I'm like, well, VPN is a giant highway where all your data has to drive from one place to the next and then come back. And anywhere in between, somebody can steal it. Whereas with Power BI is the same thing. If you're putting in a different or a piece of software from another organization, you're leaving your ecosystem, putting it somewhere else, getting a report, and then it has to sync back, which is fine. There's a lot of security out there to take it. But overall, from an integration and user-friendly perspective, cybersecurity perspective, and getting that productivity out of it quickly, I think that really differentiates Power BI in the market. So,
yep.
The answer again, highly opinionated.
I agree. The integration piece, the security piece, I think are a big deal. Okay, so I got to take the last question that we'll take one more question, which is give us some questions about, well, I'm summarizing it, but what are some use cases where you've seen Power BI in place at small businesses that have been effective? So, and Jermaine, I'll give a few or a couple and jump in here. Month-end financial reporting. So there are, if you're using your financial systems, have a bunch of canned reports usually, or always, but a lot of times those canned reports aren't exactly what you need as an organization to analyze your financial data. So you could have margin analysis, you could have profitability by certain revenue type, or and there's every organization has some different financial metrics that they look at. And so getting those in real time, being able to analyze what's going on from a financial side of things. It could be as simple as accounts receivable. I want to give access to my account reps if one of their clients is 60 days overdue, right? But I don't want to give them whole access to our accounting system, so that they can go and log in and look at the receivables. And I don't want somebody manually emailing once a week,
marking it off in a calendar.
Yeah, here's people on the poop list, right? No, we don't want to do that, right? Key dashboards, like key executive dashboards. That's a big thing we've seen, right? A lot of, if people use like traction, the EOS method, it's a lot about making sure that you have your numbers and you have your numbers and your running rhythms and stuff like that, and you have key metrics across the board. Power BI is really good at having that sort of executive level summary of those metrics.
We've got other use cases. We've got a few of our clients. They do education facilities. One of the things that they use it to get reporting, because they're kind of their registration tool for students versus the test registration tool versus the annual programs tool. They're all separate pieces of software, and they were looking for a way to ensure that they could do it by student and see everything related to the student and all the different platforms that they were using. So another great use case is then for them to be able, somebody would have to currently or previously log in, check each one, pull out the data, put it somewhere else, and then come back with an Excel sheet. Well, here's all our students reporting for the last semester. And when you take that and you turn it into a live dashboard, somebody now hits log in, goes to the dashboard, there's the reporting by student. And then you get to sort it by student. You get to sort it by calendar. You get to sort it by school year, by semester, etc., which is a great use case to gather the data around attendance and attendance to the classes, attendance to the practicals, registration times, etc. We've got another one that does their entire area is working with people with disabilities and doing rehabilitation exercises, etc. Their entire facility is running that way. And one of the key aspects for them is reporting on their registration cycles, looking at the data for their the number of programs that they have in place versus people registered, etc. So it's all actionable data that we're seeing coming out of some of our clients and prospects that we talk to.
Here's one last use case. Go around to different departments and different people in your operation and say, tell me about an example where you have to go and manually collect data and you have to put that data together in order to do X function. So an example in our organization, on a quarterly basis, our consulting team meets with our clients and goes through their technology strategy. In order to prepare for one of those meetings, there is a boatload of, hey, what's going on with their hardware refresh plan? What's going on with their cybersecurity? Where are we on the roadmap? Where are they against our best practices standards? All these different things. And it used to take our consulting team hours and hours to gather all this information and then analyze it, or put it together into something that they could then analyze it and then get to the point where they're able to give the clients a recommendation. So much of their time they're spending actually gathering the information.
Yep.
So we use Power BI and we eliminated that gather time. Now they spend that time instead deciding on what are the recommendations, what are the priorities, what are we going to deliver in the meeting. And the prep is less about the grunt work of gathering the information, and is more about the smart work. Another example, similar construction company that we work with had all sorts of people out in the field, and they were looking at machines at sites, and they were emailing back data to the head office. Head office was putting in an Excel spreadsheet. We talked about Excel. So they're putting in an Excel spreadsheet and then turning that into a graph to interpret the data and then sending it back to the person on site. So then they could make decisions on site.
Yeah.
So very simple, Microsoft Forms, Power BI, put them together, and the people on site could then enter stuff into a form. It would go into Power BI and spit back a report to them automatically without having the 3 people back at head office that were responsible for manually taking this data and interpreting it and gathering it and stuff like that, and then sending it back and giving them data that they could then make decisions on site.
Yep.
While they were there.
Yeah, great example.
Super cool stuff. All right, I think I've probably shared our readiness assessment enough, right?
I think so. Everyone knows how to get in contact with us anyway.
Perfect. We really appreciate every time people attend our webinar. It's great to see so much interest in data and to talk about the power of data. So thank you for joining. If you are interested in kind of going further and assessing your data, your information, your organization, please fill out that readiness assessment. Quick way for us to know who we should contact right away. Clients, not clients, either way. Let us know. We'll reach out. We'll have a chat. Jermaine, thanks for joining us today.
Awesome. It was a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody who's joined. Hope you're having a wonderful summer so far. Have a great summer, and don't forget to join our next webinar in late August. Have a great day.